This episode stayed with me in a different way. I wasn't thinking about what happened. I kept thinking about what actually changed. And it's not outside, it's inside. Because this episode felt less like a story about love and more like a story about becoming aware of parts yourself that were always there. And once you notice them, you can't return to not knowing. And that's why I kept coming back to these questions in the episode. The entire episode felt like watching Tanrak fight with himself. And throughout the previous episodes, and now here, we see confusion, resistance, and trying to understand feelings before accepting them. At first, he gives in to the emotion in the ending of the episode 2 and immediately sees it as a sin. And that's why the confusion at the beginning of the episode 3 feels powerful. Not because of what happened, but because what it meant to him. And I'm not entering the discussion of whether this is love or not, because I don't think love has a single beginning. And throughout the episode, we see things slowly become visible: the confusion, the fear, the jealousy. And the scene where Tanrak sees Barth with Cherry, it on the surface feels like jealousy, but underneath that, there is fear. Fear of what this says about himself, or fear of what this actually means. And maybe Bart doesn't feel the same about him. But what stayed with me even more was the episode didn't only show Tandak becoming aware, it also showed Bart becoming more direct as Bart start asking questions instead of avoiding them, and he tries to make a safe place for Tandak to open up to him. And like saying that you don't have to carry this all alone, I'm here for you. Maybe he's not trying to solve any problems, he's just simply existing to listen what Tandak has to say. And another moment, like Bart asked Tandak about going to Christmas party with Sherry. And if Bart truly had no awareness of what was changing between them, why did he ask? Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it's everything. And it felt like Bart was also observing, testing, and trying to understand where he's standing in Tandak's world. And suddenly both of them stopped feeling like fixed goals, but two people becoming aware in different ways. And then by the end, the long zoom out shots, the isolation, and the confession, how they look at each other. And how Tandak shuts the door, it felt like he was trying to shut down his own emotions while also keeping Bath outside of them. And the confession, and the response, and the kiss itself didn't feel dramatic to me. It felt intimate, like they are both frightened and trying to fight the inevitable, like someone who spent so long trying not to feel finally stopped running from that. What sins does Tanrak actually have to confess? This became my first question after watching the episode, because sin is a religious concept, not a scientific one. And Tanrak is someone who always tries to do the right thing. So, what is actually disturbing him here? Did it hurt anyone or betray anyone or do some harm? But something changed inside him, and maybe that is what scares him. What I found interesting is that since in this episode do not automatically mean harming someone. They appear in smaller moments where Tanda lets his guard down. The moments where he helplessly looks at Bart. And the moments where his attention moves before his thoughts do. Even at the end of the previous episode, we could already see something changing: the fear, the confusion, the longing. and his expressions felt less like guilt and more like someone becoming unpredictable to himself. And that made me wonder, are these sins really sins? Or do they only feel like sins because Tanrak life moved in one set direction for a long time, like a calm sea, and Bath becomes the ripple that introduced uncertainty. Maybe the discomfort isn't because something is wrong. Maybe it is because something is unfamiliar. What love actually takes you to God? This became my favorite question from the episode because I don't think love has a single definition, or maybe there is no definition at all. There are different forms of love in the universe, like love for plants, animals, environment, love for a partner or family, religion, and finally love for God. And that made me think, is there good and bad love? Or only one kind of love that brings someone closer to God? Or can human love also become sacred? And this episode says that God made human beings to love each other. But the episode never directly answers. It leaves the question in there. And it quietly left another possibility open. Maybe love is not becoming something different. Maybe it's only changing direction. And that possibility felt both beautiful and frightening at the same time. God always understands us. Then why is Tanda suffocating? The one line that stayed with me in the whole episode is that no matter what happens, don't run away from God. God always understands us and loves us. These are the beautiful words. They reflect the ideas of grace, mercy, and unconditional understanding of God. Like the idea that no matter what flaws you have, God understands. But seeing Tandak sit alone in the church felt really suffocating. And I started thinking, if God's love is unconditional, why does Tandak believe he committed a sin? And why does his fears always become or begin from God? What if God rejects me? And this question stayed with me because the divine command theory suggests that morality comes from God, and there are some things become right and wrong because they are divinely ordered. And then a question appears like, how do people understand what God wants? Like through faith, institutions, or interpretations. And sometimes I wonder, is Chandra really afraid of God? Or afraid of disappointing the version of himself that he built around the God? Those are not always the same thing. This brought us to our ending of the episode. The first time I watched this episode, I wasn't thinking about faith, sin, or love. I was just simply watching two people trying to understand themselves. It was only when I watched it again I realized this episode wasn't asking me to choose between right or wrong. It was showing me that what it feels like when everything you believed yourself suddenly becomes uncertain. Maybe that's why episode 3 stayed with me. Not because it gave me answers, but because it made me notice how quietly fear, belief, love, and acceptance can exist inside the same person at the same time. So, thank you for your answer.